We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everybody. Welcome again to another special edition of In the Weeds on the Road for NECANN, on the floor of the New England Cannabis Convention and the Highlife Style Show here in Boxboro, Massachusetts. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and also the host of In the Weeds. And I walked by this gentleman's booth the other day and I said, I want to come back and interview you and talk to you. And here we are making it happen. And it is Sam Miserendino. He's from Buffalo. He's a Bills fan. Don't hold that against him. In fact, I respect that, okay? So, Sam, first of all, I walked by and I saw this book. If you give a bear a bong, what happens? Sam, you wrote this. Tell me about what gave you the inspiration to write what I would consider to be books that appeal to kids about cannabis.
Right. Well, it's actually, as I like to characterize them, children's books for former children.
That's why I qualify.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
That's.
okay.
I thought you might be in my target audience.
It's the Peter Pan syndrome. I'm sure you've heard about that. That's a psychological thing.
Right.
I never grow up because I don't want to grow up.
Right.
And I think I have enough ability to maybe make it happen. But tell me why. How did you get inspired to do this?
Well, it started because I have two kids, and
How old are they?
well, now they're 18 and 21.
Okay, very interesting ages. Go ahead.
Yeah, that definitely is.
Yeah.
But back when they were much younger, I used to read them the If You Give series over and over, at least 1 million times. And after about the millionth read, I was in a bit of a delirium, and I thought, this could be a lot funnier. This could use an interesting twist. And I said to my wife, wouldn't this be so much better if this was If You Give a Bunny a Beer? And she said, that would be hilarious. You should write it. And then from there, I wrote it. And that was the first book in the series. I don't know if you want to...
No, that's absolutely... Let's give it a shot there. There you go. I'm sure we can find all this on Amazon. Am I right?
Yep, and in Barnes & Noble.
There you go. We've heard of them, right? So the question, and I talk a lot about this on my shows, and I actually just chit-chatted with Cheech Marin. We all know, you're a parent. It's absolutely the toughest job any of us ever had. Right. I have so much respect for single moms who have no respect from their deadbeat jerk exes or whatever, fathers of their children, okay, that don't support their kids. It is absolutely the toughest job any of us have. I believe that the prohibitionist that pushes back and say, well, what about the kids? What about the kids, right? I said, the kids know more about these subjects than we do. So it's important for the parent to educate themselves and talk to their children about it before they turn adult age of 18. Do you agree with that?
Oh, completely. I think, more information can never be a bad thing.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, that should be a fundamental truth. Unfortunately, it's not, but it should be.
Wasn't it Dean Wormer in Animal House? Knowledge is good. I think that was what it said on the statue, right?
Yeah.
Guy was brilliant. Let's face it. No, I'm only kidding. Bottom line here: people must have some kind of reactions when they see your books. They must say, "Oh, you can't talk to young kids about cannabis or beer. What are you doing?"
Right. Well, it's funny because, again, the books are for adults or really street-smart toddlers. Those are my demographics. Yep. But most parents get it. A lot of times at conventions, they'll see the covers and they look very kid bookish.
Right.
So they'll think it's a kid's book. They walk by and then they catch the title and they do a double take.
Right. That's exactly my experience and why I'm sitting here next to you. I was intrigued.
Right. So, and I've had a few people like online who have written, they don't see the big part of the book that says parody book. So they think it's for children and they'll write these angry screeds online. Oh my God, how can anybody write this for children? And apparently they don't read the fine print.
Well, who does, by the way? I mean, let's face it, we're lazy beings, we have flaws, the human element is... We have to learn to accept each other for who we are and how we are. And whenever you have an opportunity, I believe, to teach a lesson, I think you should. Unfortunately, in this industry, these kinds of things on logos or anything that would appeal to kids is banned by dispensaries. They can't have... There's a mermaid logo on a dispensary in South Portland, Maine. I know the guy. I've talked to him. It was in our news show. And, you know, he had to battle with the commission to get them to approve it because they thought the mermaid would appeal to kids. Now, I try to explain to them, actually, mermaids appeal to old farts, okay, like me. All right? You know, not necessarily, you know, now, but, you know, it's a fantasy, right? That's what was that. So that's why I really wanted to talk with you, because I am passionate about giving education back to people. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to have conversations with your young kids, because guess what? The kids know more about this than the adults do.
Right.
And and the adults, by the way, what they know has been misinformation, and they've been lied to for 50, 80, 100 years, however you want to take it. So I'm big on, I really want to have an opportunity to talk to parent-teacher organizations about how to talk to your kids about these subjects. Don't make them taboo. Get them comfortable with it. These are adult products used by adults responsibly, or at least we hope they would be. Am I right?
Right, absolutely.
What's next for you? How did you get into? Were you always not an illustrator? I know. No, always an author. Tell me about your background.
Yeah, I'm an attorney. So I've.
So you could totally relate to some of the stuff I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm an attorney. I went to college at Northwestern. Yep. Went to law school at the University of Buffalo. Yep. I've always been a writer. Always loved writing. My very first book was a graphic novel, put out by a really small independent publisher, and then that same publisher put out the "If You Give a Bunny a Beer" book, and it just took off. I mean, it did really well, and then I got a major publisher. And
that's fantastic, because it is not an easy thing to do, be an author, a published author these days. I mean, there's a lot of self-publishing going on and posting on Amazon, but you've got a real gig.
Yeah, no, and it's wonderful. I mean, and I feel really fortunate, and the way it came about was, you know, pretty lucky. You know, I just had somebody, I mean, I went to law school or college with a guy who was driving through Buffalo, saw one of my legal billboards, called me, saw what I'd been working on, and had a friend who was an agent, connected us, and it just went from there. So
love those stories. Absolutely love those stories. Oh, I'm getting a message on the low power. I know we're still rolling, though, because it's 20%, all right? But, Sam, I really enjoyed chatting with you and talking with you. I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to definitely have this on our little podcast review that I do, and I throw everything together and we turn this into magic. But I want you to follow Pro Cannabis Media for me, would you please?
Absolutely.
All right, like, share, and subscribe. How do people find you other than on Amazon?
Well, my books, I've got a Facebook page for the "If You Give a Bear a Bong" book and "If You Give a Bunny a Beer."
Have you had any problems with the word bong and Facebook?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
I was at one point I was trying to do an ad to promote it, and they sent it back saying it violated their standards. So then I did a picture because of the image of the bong on the front. So then I just put "censored" over the bong and resubmitted it, but they rejected that as well. So
clever as an attorney, why not? Right? That's pretty good. Give it a shot.
I thought it might work, but despite their efforts, the books are widely available, and you can, like I said, you can find them on Amazon. They're at Barnes and Noble. Pretty much anywhere books are sold.
Yeah. And I'm going to recommend it even before I even read it, because I met the author and I'm really impressed with him. So that's going to wrap up this edition of In the Weeds with Jimmy Young from NECANN and the Highlife Style Show here in Boxboro, Massachusetts. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds, and once in a while, the really live business cannabis talk show we call Green Rush on Friday afternoons from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. Now let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore, so I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now, if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weejits filtration system. What? The Weedgets.com, Weedgets, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. Now, the guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. So here's how it works. You start with that glass bowl, you flame on, and then you inhale nice and smooth so the smoke goes through 3 different filtration and cooling systems. Now, if pre-rolls is your thing, you can use the Weedgets filter that a pre-roll fits into perfectly. That's right, or even a chillum. The more filters, the smoother the draw. Best of all is the price. You can get all this, or one or the other, for just a few bucks. It'll cool your smoke and you'll give your lungs a break. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weedgets.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind. All that resin and tar is collected in the polyurethane filters that are easy to clean with soap, water, and a few Q-tips. Your lungs will thank you, and so will I.
Which at first I thought, oh, I don't know if I'm an activist, but I have, held a bullhorn on the State House steps. I have frequently testified before the Cannabis Control Commission and the state legislature, and I'm not, shy about criticizing where I see, mistakes being made. So yeah, I think that's what differentiates me, just an appreciation for the plant. And then also I'm a cannabis entrepreneur myself. I've started businesses, so I've lived that entrepreneurial journey. I know how hard it is. It is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint. So I think that, I'm in the game, not just on the sidelines.
As a broker, we have access to many, many cannabis carriers. So I will go in with 2 or 3 quotes for people. The quotes might be $20,000 for one, $22,000 for another, $17,500 for another. Pretty close among the 3. What I tell people is it's not the pricing, it's what's included and not included, meaning exclusions. An exclusion in layman's terms is just something that's not included. It's not on the menu, so it's just not included. But if you don't know that, if no one shows you that on page 71 of a 150-page policy, you're not going to know. No one knows. I never met one person that says they read an insurance policy. If you do, I got some property in Florida for you.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are 2 productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
So the reality of the matter is, big banks and small banks are going to be different in a lot of ways. And they're both going to have their advantages and disadvantages. For a business like cannabis, you really have to have an integral knowledge of that business and a real granular knowledge of that business and the players involved in it. And that's why if you look at the banks that are successful to play in this space in Massachusetts, they are smaller banks that are very heavy, intensified personal touch, human communication, where you don't get a lot of that with the bigger banks.
Bay State Cannabis Report is supported by Holyoke Cannabis, Holyoke's finest cannabis recreational experience.